This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Program is rated MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Oh, you already know this, but we share it every day anyways, just in case if you forget. It does not matter who the host is. What has always mattered is who the listeners are. Anyways, today is Thursday, December the 11th of 2025, day 345th of the year, and only 20 days left to go. We are broadcasting from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida, and coming across the multiverse known as Safety FM, and then hanging out with our friends and colleagues over there.
Radio in USA, Canada, UK.
Oh, yes, that's kind of how it goes. We hang out with all of our friends over there inside of Radio Big. So how's the last 24 been for you? Because it's at least been that since the last time we hung out, at least minimally. Unless we were doing stuff yesterday, but I doubt that seriously. So a lot of stuff going on inside of the multiverse. So if you're not familiar with what we do around here, let me tell you a little bit about the show. We talk about safety in the news and safety. That's kind of how we go about talking about some of this stuff. And then we kind of go down the path and we bring in some professional broadcasters as they will talk a little bit about the things that are going on inside of the world of the multiverse. We give it to you with their flavoring because they'll know exactly what to talk about, where I'm just kind of making up shit as I go. That's just kind of how the show goes when it's all said and done. If you want to interact with the show, it's a simple process on doing so. Callinradio.com. That's callinradio.com. We'll get you into the system itself, and then it gives me a little prompter there, letting me know exactly what is going on. Audio, video, and text messaging are the options once you get to that side of the equation, and then we kind of move from there. So if you're good with that, I'm good with it, and we get to move forward. Yep, that's the good part about the whole thing. So how are things going in your world? It's always an important question to ask. So, like, truly, how are you doing? Because we always want to know this stuff before we move forward and going into any of the wildness that we're going to do around here. That's for sure. So as we go down the path today, we're going to talk about everything that is the major news stories that is going on. And then we'll kind of give you a breakdown of some of the other cycles of stuff that is happening inside of the drama of Hollywood and the entertainment world. I have to tell you this before we get into any of our main stories. This 6-7 thing has gotten so ridiculous that we need to talk about this. Finally, a generation other than millennials blamed for ruining something. In-N-Out Burger customers customers will no longer get a receipt ticket with order number 67 because of the bizarre and pointless 67 thing. People Magazine's reports that youth have been lining up at restaurants just to lose their minds when number 67 is called. A Los Angeles location employee has confirmed the change. Worth noting, at least they're going outside. So there you go. And then meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance has gotten a wind of the bit from his young son. And he writes on X, yesterday at church, the Bible reading started with page 66 and 67, the missile inside of the missile. And then the 5-year-old went absolutely nuts, repeating 6, 7, like 10 times. Now I think that we need to make this a narrow exception to the First Amendment and ban numbers 6, 7 forever. This is what he said. So I don't know. Kind of getting all over the place with that one. I don't know. What do you think about it? Just the thing. Anyways, let's get into some people that know about news, because that seems to be a little bit more important. So let's do that right now. Let's bring in our friends from Feature Story News here on the show.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
From Feature Story News in the UK, I'm John Beaver. Caracas says the US is guilty of international piracy after American forces seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. Officials say it was carrying sanctioned oil, and the Trump administration accuses Venezuela of drug trafficking and supporting foreign terrorist organisations. Venezuela accuses Washington of trying to steal its resources. Defence analyst Colonel Simon Diggins says it's the latest part of a US pressure campaign on Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro.
US forces in the Caribbean have been gradually building up over time. We've also seen the sinking of alleged drug runner boats by the US Navy, and it essentially has declared Venezuela a narcotic state, and that essentially Maduro has to go. The question is, how does he do it? And I think Maduro has not gone easily, which I think was the kind of, make you an offer I can't refuse. And so what President Trump is doing is just piling the pressure on any way he can.
India's largest domestic air carrier, Indigo, has denied claims that flight disruptions were deliberate. More than 2,000 Indigo flights have been cancelled across major Indian airports in the last week and a half, after the airline failed to make adequate preparations for new rules governing pilots' flying hours. Neha Punia has more.
Indigo chairman Vikram Singh Mehta says the airline's board will examine every aspect of the recent disruptions and will also be bringing on external technical experts to determine what led to mass flight cancellations. He has, however, pushed back against claims that the disruptions were intentional. He says Indigo neither engineered the crisis nor tried to influence government rules. He claims the airline operated under the updated pilot fatigue rules throughout the months of July and November and did not attempt to bypass them. The Indian Civil Aviation Watchdog, meanwhile, says a dedicated oversight team is going to be stationed at the airline's corporate office to oversee daily operations and keep an eye on on-time performances.
Google's AI research lab, known as DeepMind, has entered into a partnership with the UK government to provide cutting-edge science research. In return, the government will explore how the AI model could be used to help teachers in schools. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer claims the partnership would help everyone feel the benefits of AI. Google's AI lab would complete automated scientific research into cutting-edge materials like semiconductors and solar cells and be available to AI researchers studying the future of large language models. It would also be offered to help speed up public sector planning and governance. In the classroom, Gemini would help teachers with administrative tasks and suggest content to teachers. But some campaign groups are worried about big tech giants like Google becoming too intertwined with public sector services.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, there is a long-storied tradition of tell-all books about the prison experience. Some truly great works of literature. Think of Primo Levi in Auschwitz, Albie Sachs in South Africa, Václav Havel and his letters to Olga, scribed from a jail cell in Soviet Czechoslovakia. Now, there is a new addition to the genre, and it's scribed by former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. He was just released after serving nearly 3 weeks of a 5-year jail sentence for election campaign funding conspiracy. His new book, A Prisoner's Diary, describes awful food, unbearable noise, and an ordeal that tested his countenance. Paul Dallison of Politico Europe has taken an early look at it.
20 days in prison, a 216-page book. That's just under 11 pages per day. And of course, he's in solitary confinement. He's got 2 bodyguards to keep him safe in the cell next to him, and has very few interactions with the other inmates. He didn't like any of the food. He doesn't like the smell of the food, says it makes him nauseous. And the baguettes that are delivered at lunch are described as mushy and soggy.
The former French president also appears enraged with the country's current leader, Emmanuel Macron, for stripping him of the Légion d'honneur, the nation's highest award. But he thanks far-right leader Marine Le Pen for speaking out on his behalf following his court conviction. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, Caracas says the US is guilty of international piracy after American forces seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. Officials claim it was carrying sanctioned oil. India's largest domestic carrier, Indigo, has denied claims that flight disruptions were deliberate. And Google's AI research lab, known as DeepMind, has entered into a partnership with the UK government to provide cutting-edge science research. That's the latest feature story news. John Beaver reporting.
You are listening to something magical. You're listening to the Rated R Safety Show.
Do you have a claim and not sure where to turn? Coastal Claim Consultants are professionally licensed and bonded public insurance adjusters employed exclusively by you, the policyholder, to represent you after sustaining an insured loss. They assist policyholders in all aspects of processing the claim, working closely with the insured to provide the most equitable and timely settlement possible. They will provide you with comprehensive service, anything from inspecting the loss site, analyzing damages, compiling claim support data, reviewing applicable coverages, assessing replacement costs of damages, and negotiating your settlement. The adjusters at Coastal Claim Consultants will evaluate your claim for no upfront cost whatsoever. Coastal Claim Consultants' fee is based on contingency contracts and are paid when the insurance company sends you a check and it's in your possession. Coastal Claim Consultants are licensed to assist you in the following states: Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and South Carolina. For more information, go to coastal-cc.com. That's coastal-cc.com. For more information, lighting the way to recovery. Coastal Claim Consultants.
This isn't a safety manual. It's a transmission. Jay Allen, PhD, host of the Rated R Safety Show and founder of Safety FM, has spent years pulling back the curtain on the systems we work in and the ones we don't talk about. What started as a fatal crash on the 405 became a search for truth. Through behavior-based safety, human and organizational performance, simulation theory, and everything in between. Safety, in my opinion, is raw, reflective, and real. From burnout to breakthroughs, from the matrix to the moment someone says, "This doesn't feel right." This book doesn't give you answers. It hands you the signal. Safety, in my opinion. Available now, wherever books and audiobooks are found.
You ever hit the wall, burnout, stressed, or just feeling that everything is piling up and thought, yeah, I probably need to talk to someone? The problem is finding the therapist who actually takes your insurance feels impossible at times. That's where Rula comes in. Rula is a healthcare company that makes mental health care easy to access and actually affordable. They partner with over 100 insurance plans, so the average copay is about $15 a session, sometimes even less. With Rula, you get matched with the right therapist for you, not just whoever's available. Their network has over 15,000 licensed professionals, and you can book an appointment as soon as tomorrow. No wait list, no frustrations, just therapy that works with your schedule and your insurance. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that actually covered by insurance. Visit Rula.com/safetyfm to get started. After you sign up, you'll be asked how you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know that we sent you there. That's RULA.com/safetyfm. You deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget. Go to Rula.com/safetyfm RULA.com/safetyfm right now to get started. That's RULA.com/safetyfm, because you deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget.
The best show on the dial is right here, and it's guaranteed to make your day at least 40% better.
Radio Big. Streaming 24/7 at radiobig.fm.
Okay, here we go. We are currently 15 minutes past the top of the hour as we are hanging out doing all the fun stuff that we get to do, no doubt about that. So let's start talking right away about some things that are going on inside of the world, because that's what we do. We talk a little bit about everything. But take a listen to this, because I found this one and I thought it was interesting. Denzel Ziggers, originally 5'5", flew to Turkey to get height-lengthening surgery. Yeah, that's not a joke as I say that. Let's see. Flew to Turkey to get the height-lengthening surgery, and that boasted him to an even 6 weeks. The process wasn't a walk in the park. Doctors literally broke his bones, inserted rods, and then had him turn a key every 90 days to stretch the bone. He did this twice a day, lower legs and upper, for a total of 6 surgeries. The price tag abroad was around $80,000, much cheaper than the $150,000 that he was quoted in the U.S. He is now recovering in Atlanta with the help of his mom, leaning on crutches and rebuilding muscles in the gym, and laughing at the women that don't seem remotely bothered that he is currently has 2 broken legs. Seegers also said that he did it to evolve mentally, spiritually, and physically. Critics tell him that love what God gave you, but he fires back with maybe also gave humans the ability to upgrade the hardware. With his wingspan already matched with someone of 5'10", so he insists that he's proportionate. His brothers, both 5'4", say that he's proved that it's possible, and that he claims that the new height is already helping his rap career by big personality, new height, no regret. Take a listen.
What inspired you to do this? Because we're going to get into how arduous this is, but this is a tough, long procedure and recovery and all. So why did you do it?
It's just something I've always wanted since I was a kid. You know, all the men in my family were taller, so I decided to do it for myself as well. Basically, the 3 inches comes from the upper legs. Over in Turkey, which is why I did it in Turkey, they do upper and lower, because lower is highly recommended against. So essentially what they do is they break the bone and they put a rod in between the bone, and you stretch the rod, which stretches the bone out over a period of time, which takes about 3 months per surgery. So the first one I did was 3 months. The second one I did was 3 months.
Are you immobile during those 6 months?
Not necessarily. I was pretty mobile. I was up and down stairs. I was on the move, but I was very athletic before I went. Realistically, this surgery comes with a lot of different possible side effects. If you're not careful, you could die. You could have basically a situation where your bones don't reconnect. So you just have this empty hole in your leg where it's just a rod, which the rod won't last forever. But it's a few different situations you could run into with this surgery.
Wait a minute, you just said the rod can't last forever. Is this something that has a shelf life to it, or is it going to last the rest of your life?
So the rods come out once the bone heals. Like, you can get the rods taken out. They're not supposed to be in forever. And your bone isn't just supposed to be sitting there, you know, with all this space in between it with just a rod.
I know the next thing I'm going to ask is a terrible question, but what the hell happens if you take a leg kick? No, I'm not joking as I say they. So Turkey didn't just raise his height; they just raised the bar. So I mean, it's one of those weird ones, that's for sure. As we're talking about, I know to start off with something kind of strange first thing in the morning, but man, what do you think here? I think it's kind of one of those strange times as we are talking. So I don't know. What do you think? I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. I look at it and I go, it's a strange thing. I mean, if you want to do that, do it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the wrong thing here, but geez. It's just, strange. Strange is the best way to put it. Let's just leave it at that, and let's get into some other stuff because there's so many things to talk about today and what is going on inside of this world. That is no doubt about that. So, should we go into odd stories or should we go into something else? I mean, because I kind of got a plethora of both, but let's get into this one. A fit man nearly killed by his energy drink habit. What happened when his body finally crashed? A new case study is adding fuel to the fire over energy drink dangers, and this one was brutal. A healthy man, fit in his 50s in the UK, wound up in a sky-high blood pressure and had a stroke after knocking back 8 energy drinks a day. Well, holy shit there. And that's the thing, around 1,300 milligrams of caffeine daily, more than triple the recommended max of 400 milligrams. He showed that up with numbness, weakness of the left side, trouble walking, swallowing, and talking. Doctors found his blood pressure reading at 254 over 150, and the kind of numbers that makes cardiologists break out a cold sweat. When the meds didn't bring it down, he finally admitted that he is daily energy drink binge. Even years after quitting, he still has lingering numbness. Researchers highlighted that it wasn't just the caffeine, but the mix of stimulants like guarana, taurin, ginseng, and massive sugar load like turbocharged the risk. Energy drinks can range from 70 milligrams to 500 milligrams of caffeine per can. And they're widely popular, especially with Gen Z, with the global sales climbing towards 125 billion. Yes, that's with a B. The study's authors are calling tighter regulations, stricter advertising rules, and basically a warning label that says 8 cans is not an energy boost. It's a demolition derby in your cardiovascular system, because that's what it is. So some stuff to think about. So 8 cans a day is not an energy boost. It's the auditioning of a live action defibrillator diaries. I mean, because there's just no other way to put that. So what do you think when you hear this? I mean, what do you intake in any of these energy drinks? Because some people do, and it's okay. I'm not saying it's not. But that is a lotto in regards of what is going on. So there you go. Some stuff to think about. What do you think about the whole thing when it's all said and done? Or do you kind of go, I don't give 2 shits about this stuff, so let's kind of move on into something else. So there you go. We already talked about some of the stuff going on with not Whataburger, with In-N-Out Burger. I mean, getting rid of the 6-7 stuff. It's kind of interesting as we're getting more and more into this, because I just go, okay, it's kind of that ridiculous. I mean, I was watching a news story where some people were losing it over that. So I don't know. Just one of those weird things. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this one. House Ox $900 billion defense bill that raises to pay for troops. The House passed a massive $900 billion defense policy bill that raises troops' pay, updates how the Pentagon buys weapons, and orders the release of unedited videos of U.S. strikes on boats in the Caribbean. The bill arrives amid growing friction between the Republican-controlled Congress and the president's administration over military management, though the White House still backs the legislation, buried in 3,000 pages of several measures that push back on the Pentagon. The bill includes a 3.8% troop pay raise plus housing and facility upgrades. It also weapons purchases, overhauls of the Pentagon acquisition system to speed up to the weapon procurement, a key priority for Defense Secretary. D.C. flight restrictions. Lawmakers complained that the bill doesn't sufficiently limit military flights over Washington after the deadly mid-air collision. And then let's see, Pete Hegseth's penalty cuts Hegseth's travel budget by 25% until Congress receives unedited video of the controversial Venezuela area strikes and access to the strike orders. Also, Europe and Asia force levels locks the minimum troop numbers in Europe to 76,000 to maintain pressure against Russia. It also requires 28,500 troops to remain in South Korea. It utilizes $400 million per year for 2 years to produce weapons for the Ukraine, and climate and DEI cuts slashes $1.6 billion in climate-related spending and repeals various diversity, equity, or equality, and inclusion programs. Iraq war appeal officially ends the 2002 authorization of Iraq invasion to prevent future misuse, and Syria sanctions permanently lift sanctions of Syria were temporarily eased under the Trump administration. IVF drops approval to explain IVF coverage for service members, sparking pushback from Democrats, and the bill now heads to the Senate. So yeah, sounds like a lot of stuff that you need to go to. And what did we say here? That it's buried in over 3,000 pages of stuff, and that's just kind of a little tiny bit of the whole thing that's actually going to be inside of there. So some stuff to talk about as we are going. Okay, take a listen to this. President Trump just cranked up the heat to Venezuela. U.S. Coast Guard forces cease a massive oil tanker off of Venezuela's coast as part of his ongoing pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro. Let's see. Officials aren't saying exactly where the naming of the vessel, but the move instantly sent oil prices climbing over fears of the supply disruption. Venezuela ships most of the oil to China and relies heavily on those exports for revenue. A Bloomberg report called the tanker seizure a major escalation. The president told reporters that it was the largest tanker ever seized and said that the U.S. will simply keep the oil. And this is the first time the administration has directly interfered with Venezuela's oil distribution. Meanwhile, Trump has already launched dozens of lethal strikes on boats in the U.S., says that they were involved with drug trafficking, leaving more than 80 people dead across the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. So there you go. Just telling you what's going on. Let's talk about this one because this one was talked about previously, but now let's get into the deets. President Trump rolled out the long-teased gold card program, a pricey new path to legal U.S. residency and eventually citizenship. Individuals can buy a $1 million while corporation that will pay $2 million for foreign-born employees they want to keep. A new website opened the application. He announced the program surrounded by business leaders. The gold card is essentially a supercharged green card, replacing the old EB-5 investor visa. Unlike EB-5, there's no mention of job creation requirements or caps. The president says that the overhaul is meant to pull in top global talent while funneling billions straight into the treasury. He argued that U.S. companies struggle to keep standout foreign graduates from American universities because current visa rules tie their hands. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that the screening process will ensure fully qualified applicants make it through. Plenty of countries already sell golden visas, but the version, according to Trump, is much more powerful and much stronger path to citizenship. What do you think about the whole thing?
More sarcasm than a Mortal Kombat beatdown. Rated R safety show.
I think it's kind of a different kind of option there. I mean, but then you kind of take a look at it. It's like, okay, so if you're rich, you can make it in. If it's all said and done, it's just kind of the way that it sounds when you take a look at it. I'm just saying, don't get mad at me. Just giving you what it looks like doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. Also, NASA lost contact with Maven, the spaceship that been circling Mars over 10 years. The probe was talking just fine until it slipped behind the planet over the weekend and then popped back out and nothing. Total radio silence. Maven launched back in 2013 and arrived in 2014 to study Mars' upper atmosphere and how the sun basically stripped the planet dry over billions of years. It also pulls double duty as communication relay for the Curiosity and Perseverance rover. NASA engineers are digging into the problem while space agencies of the two other orbiters, let's see if I can say this. I can't even talk it. Orbiter and the Mars Odyssey are still running strong. So there you go. There's still some other options apparently that are out there that are going through. So what do you think about this whole thing? A lot of stuff. We just talked about a lot of stuff. Very short period of time of doing that. So there you go. I don't know. It gets weird when it's all said and done. So there you go. Okay, so take a listen to this. I don't know. We're going to get into some miscellaneous stuff. A soft boy. Have you heard this term? I want to talk about this. It is a young man who's not afraid to show his emotions and is confident in doing so. Instead of being marked as a weakness, it's now become the latest iteration of positive masculinity. Dating experts at Tinder discovered that Gen Z will be practicing the trend emotional vibe coding, where emotional availability is hot and emotional buffering is not. So there you go. What do you think? I'm just asking. I don't know. So it gets strange. I have to tell you, sometimes I get some of the weirdest things that come in and people ask questions. So let's talk about some of this real quick. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. So let's start off with this one. Jay, is it safe to leave the Christmas tree plugged in all night? I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I had to look this up. So let's talk about what the experts are saying. Christmas tree lights may look magical glowing at night, but safety experts, I don't know who they're talking about, says don't even think about leaving them on while you're asleep or out of the house. Even LED strands can overheat if wiring is damaged. And both natural and artificial trees can ignite if light fails and gets too warm. Electrical specialist Hammer Song and Leon Wang explained the problem. Anything with heating parts and older wiring, including holiday lights, become a fire risk the longer they stay plugged in. If the cords are feel warm, that's your cue to unplug it immediately. Their fix is to, let's see, is simple. Use timers, set the lights to shut off automatically. And when you go to bed or leave the home, just make sure that the timer matches the voltage and currents of your light. Uncertified and mismatched gadgets create new hazards instead of solving them. So there you go. So here's my question. So those are strands of lights that we're talking about. What about those Christmas trees that already have, that are the artificial ones, that already have the lights pre-built into them? Does that become an issue, or does that become something entirely totally different? I'm just asking because I never know. I never know any of this. I just ask the questions because who else knows? Just asking. So what do you think? I'm just saying. A lot of strange stuff. Anyways, we're so close to our main story because, we do that when we get to the 32-minute mark. If you've been here before, that's kind of how the show goes. And we go about doing that right there, going into our main story. So if you're ready for this, I'm ready for this. Let's go ahead and get into it now. Let's go ahead and get into that main story here on the Rated R Safety Show.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so it's time to talk about some of the stuff that we don't love talking about, but sometimes we have to do that. And if I was going to call this anything, I think we should call this the cost of not caring anymore. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Let's spend some time today talking about something that we don't like to admit that exists in our organizations, not in our teams, and definitely not in ourselves. But apathy would probably be the thing that we need to talk about. Apathy is one of those topics that leaders wish that they would magically solve itself. Yes, it's like magic. It's like the poof of poofness of anything, if we could say that. We should almost even do chimes. Apathy is just one of those topics. It's just kind of the way that it goes. So apathy is one of those topics that leaders wish that magically would solve itself, like dust settling or in boxes clearing. But apathy doesn't go away on its own. It grows quietly, slowly, predictably. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And by the time you finally notice it, it usually is already steering the ship. That's kind of how it goes. Now, here's the trick. It almost never shows up in a neon sign that says, hey, we don't care anymore. Like, hey, we don't care anymore. There's no sign that says that, but we are expecting it. That's kind of how it is. Never has. No apathy. Apathy is subtle. Apathy whispers. It shows up in little things like those tiny indicators that we love to ignore. You know what I'm talking about. A dull hazard that's been in the same spot for the last 3 months. A form that someone fills out because they have to do it. Not because it means anything. That pre-shift meeting where half of the room is mentally somewhere else. A suggestion box that hasn't been opened since the Obama administration. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Apathy is not dramatic. Apathy is the slow drip in the back of the warehouse that everyone assumes someone else will eventually fix. And here's where it becomes dangerous. Apathy doesn't replace your system, it erodes them. Piece by piece, decision by decision, choice by choice. Apathy is the corrosion of intent. You built the system with meaning, with purpose, with good intentions. And then apathy shows up and quietly dissolves all the parts that actually made it work. But let's be clear for a moment. Apathy does not start with workers. It starts upstream. Yes, listen to me. Upstream. It starts when people say something and nothing changes. When they raise a concern and leadership says, we'll look into it. But the only thing that happens is the conversation gets moved into a folder called later. It starts when the message from the top becomes predictable, repetitive, and disconnected from reality on the ground. It starts when someone realizes the voice isn't the lever, it's an echo. And once the belief takes hold, apathy settles in like fog. You don't notice it right away, but suddenly everything feels a little bit muted, a little slower, a little less alive. Now, let me tell you the part nobody wants to say out loud. Apathy is not laziness. Apathy is not incompetence. Apathy is not people not caring. Apathy is the systemic response to belief that caring doesn't matter. Now, think about that for just a brief moment. If you put time and effort into something, your work, your team, your operation, and every signal you get back tells you it won't change anything, eventually you stop trying. That's not a personal failure. That's a predictable human outcome. Let me give you a simple example. Someone sees a problem, a real one, a meaningful one. They bring it up. They speak out. They try to do the right thing. And then the systems respond with, thanks, we'll get to it. Or worse, it's not a priority right now. Or even worse, just follow the procedure. You've heard all of this bullshit before. Now, what lesson did that person learn? Because they learned something, whether leadership intended it or not. They learned that speaking up procedures, no movement, no follow through, no traction. And the next time they see something, they walk past it. It's kind of how it goes. Not because they don't care. No, seriously, not because they don't care. But because they learned that caring is inefficient. It's kind of how it goes. Happens at all kinds of workplaces. People optimize their behavior around the system rewards. If the system rewards silence, they become quiet. If the system rewards blind compliance, they become compliant. If the system rewards not rocking the boat, the water becomes very still, but also stagnant. Now let's take a layer a little bit deeper here. Apathy creates organizational drift. You drift away from original purpose. You drift away from intentional design. You drift away from your meaning. And eventually, nobody remembers why things were done a certain way, but everyone remembers that nobody seems to care anymore. You end up with a system that looks safe on paper, but hollow in practice. A system that checks every box, but moves nothing forward. A system that is technically functioning, but spiritually exhausted. So the question becomes this: what do we do about apathy? How do you reverse something that doesn't scream, doesn't shout, and doesn't declare itself the big problem that we usually see? You start restoring responsiveness. That's the answer. You don't need some gigantic transformation. You need signal. Signals are what show people their voice creates movement. Signals shows the system is paying attention. Signal that shows caring has traction again. Sometimes it's as simple as closing the loop. Hey, you brought this up. Here's what we did. Sometimes if you're saying the quiet part out loud, we haven't been great about follow through, and we're changing that. Yeah, acknowledging that. Sometimes just this simple acknowledgement of the system accidentally taught us the wrong lesson, and now we're rewriting the script. People don't need perfection. They need participation. Apathy cannot survive in a system where effort is recognized, where voices are valued, where action is actually means something. When people believe their input matters, you don't need to motivate them. They motivate themselves. So here's where I'll leave you today with this. Where has apathy taken root in your world? Not the obvious places, the deep places, the quiet places, the places where things used to be alive but feel a little dim now. Because apathy doesn't show up as a villain. It shows up as a shrug. And the shrug slowly becomes a culture. So, in today's episode, apathy isn't loud. But if you don't address it, it will become the only voice that it will end up being left inside of your organizations. Think about that.
Oops! What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
This portion of the show has been sponsored by Private Internet Access, America's #1 virtual private network, or VPN. Even if you use incognito mode, internet service providers is storing your browser data and many times even selling it. But Private Internet Access, or PIA, can help you. PIA encrypts and reroutes your internet traffic through one of its own servers, hiding your data from your internet service provider or network admin. And with servers in over 75 countries, you can get unrestricted access to geo-blocked content from around the world. PIA comes with easy-to-use apps and browsers extension for all devices, a rock-solid privacy policy, open source security, advanced customization settings, and it was just ranked the fastest VPN in the world by PC Magazine. And if you sign up right now with PIA, you can take advantage of a special deal only for Safety FM listeners. Only by using the following link, you can get the digital privacy for less than $2 a month. Yes, you did hear me correctly, less than $2 a month, and an extra 4 months for free. So that means for only $1.98 a month and 83% off, you can get this service for you right now. That's so much more inexpensive than virtually every other VPN on the market. And if you get it right now, you can take PIA's 30-day risk-free challenge. You can try it out for 30 days, see if you like it, and if not, just return it for a full refund. So just go to safetyfm.com/VPN. That's safetyfm.com/VPN to try out the best VPN on the planet completely risk-free. Now remember, safetyfm.com/VPN.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hacked? Is your safety trainer still preaching a warped version of behavior-based safety? How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywars.com or call Jim Posel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all three books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobile.io. They have an
ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
You could be listening to the best, but you're not. Radio Big.
Okay, here we are. 45 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out on this lovely Thursday. And we are still enjoying the first hour of the Rated R Safety Show. Even though this is like hour number 1 of the Jay Allen of the Morning Show, because we go into hour 2 and 3, but that's on Radio Big exclusively. We'll leave that for another time to talk about that. But we are radio only for the next second and third hour. Hour 1 is across the multiverse of the stuff that we do. Yeah, this right here that I'm playing in the background is called Parallel Love. Yeah. In another lifetime. Okay, yeah, that's Parallel Love is what it's called because that's what I decided to title it. So that's what we go with. So a lot of stuff going on inside of the world of the multiverse, no doubt about that, as we are talking inside of this thing. So yeah, that little song right there is just stuff that we have going on inside that we've been creating inside of the studio here. So all kinds of fun stuff as we are talking. Let's continue talking a little bit. Let me tell you about the most important thing that I will ever tell you in my lifetime, and that's about my friends at To Right Love on Our Arms. No matter what you're facing, you deserve to be connected to help, and we want you to know that people have been where you are now, and things can get better. Healing is possible. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to TWLOHA.com. That's TWLOHA.com. And click on the portion that says find help. Once you get there, you'll see information related to addiction, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, self-injury, suicide, trauma, and grief support, just to name a few. That's TWLOHA.com. To Right Love on Her Arms. So there you go. Some stuff to talk about as we are talking. Okay, let's start talking about some other stuff. Google is getting into the artificial intelligence hardware game with 2 models of smart glasses to hit the market at some point next year. One model would include screen interface for the user, and the other would be controlled primarily by audio, likely like voice commands. Both are designed to directly compete with Facebook's parent company, Meta Smart Glasses. Meta has partnered with Ray-Ban and Oakley for theirs. Google is working with Warby Parker and Gentle Monster. This is according to Bloomberg. So will you be getting into that game or not so ever? Some people will do this and some people will not. Of course, there will be the people inside of the Apple ecosystem that will be waiting for those. So there you go. Anyways, let's talk about some numbers real quick because some people care about that stuff. The Dow increased by 497 points to close at 48,057 on Wednesday. The S&P gained about 67. Well, that's bullshit. Gained about 46 points to close at 6,886. And the NASDAQ increased by 77 points to close at 23,654. West Texas Intermediate closed at $58 a barrel, and Brent crude was at $62 a barrel. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $2.94 on Wednesday, and Bitcoin was mostly flat on that day, trading just around $92.6 thousand. I wish it was million, but no, $92.6 million, $1,000. Apparently can't read. And Friday night's Mega Million drawing will be for $70 million jackpot or a $32 million cash payout. So if you want to play the game, you have the opportunity to do so. So there you go. What do you think? A lot of stuff going on. It's what it sounds like to me as we are looking around and going through the plethora of information of stuff, because that's kind of what we do around here. So don't worry about that. So here's what we're going to do. I think we're going to do this. Yeah. Or do we want to do self-help tip? Let's do some health tip, because I think we need that.
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
Actions, not mere words, determine the validity of a man's living philosophy.
But the other lesson of life that is rarely mastered is the art of fulfillment.
So, yeah, we talk about self-help tips is kind of what we do. It is kind of one of our Thursday benchmarks in regards to the stuff that we talk about. If you have not noticed that, as we are doing pattern recognition, I think is the way that it goes. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that we should stay more into the pattern recognition of stuff, or should we not talk about this? So I don't know. I look at it and I go, self-help is always a glorious thing to talk about. We talk about this in kind of multiple fashions in when we do it. We talk about it in some of the stuff that we talk about when it comes into the stuff with To Write Love on Our Arms, but we have it in some other sources too. So here you go. Mel Robbins had 7 tips for success. You're not going to feel ready. Do it anyways. Fear isn't the enemy. Staying frozen is. The 5-second rule, launch yourself like a rocket. Number 4, find one thing that lights you up. Number 5, step out of the weeds so you can see the big picture. Number 6, a rough morning doesn't have to ruin the whole day. And number 7, life isn't a competition, so slow down. Some things to think about. Anyways, let's bring some John Smalls into our life, because he always wants to keep us motivated. So let's do that right now. Here's John Smalls.
The Motivation Minute, courtesy of GenesisGoldIRA.com and JaceCaseMedical.com.
The Motivation Minute.
Today's quote was submitted by Jim. Dennis P. Kimbrough said, "Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it." Yes, this, absolutely. I hope you pay attention to this quote. Now, if you need a master class in this concept, just watch the movie Groundhog Day. Phil Connors was having a bad day, but he was the reason for the bad day. His actions were rude to everyone around him. Then he got a second chance, and many more chances. Nobody actually knows how many chances, but thousands. But then finally he made some decisions to be nice, and his whole world changed. The world was better because Phil was a better man.
The Motivation Minute.
The Motivation Minute, courtesy of GenesisGoldIRA.com and JaceCaseMedical.com. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
Economic policy and kitchen table budgets are colliding again as the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates for the third straight meeting.
Fed officials voted Wednesday to trim the benchmark rate by another quarter point, extending a streak of reductions aimed at supporting the job market while inflation cools. The central bank signaled it expects only one additional cut next year, suggesting concern about easing too quickly as prices remain above target. Lower borrowing costs could gradually ease pressure on mortgages, credit cards, and business loans. Lawrence Keller reporting.
A fresh flashpoint over student debt is opening as the Trump administration moves to shut down a major loan relief option.
The Education Department has begun the process of ending one of former President Joe Biden's most widely used student loan forgiveness programs, a plan that reduced balances for millions of qualifying borrowers. Officials argue the program is too costly and unfair to those who did not attend college or already repaid loans. Jessica Oakley reporting.
A major shift in kids' online lives is underway as Australia rolls out a first-of-its-kind nationwide social media age ban.
The new rules bar most social media platforms from letting children under 16 sign up or keep accounts without verified parental approval and require strict age checks run by government-approved third parties, with heavy fines for companies that fail to comply. The government frames the move as a safety push to limit exposure to harmful content and data harvesting. Benjamin Wright reporting.
This is the latest news headlines.
long-running investigation tied to the deadly Beirut port blast has hit a legal wall in a courtroom far from Lebanon. Joseph Eckerson with the latest.
A Bulgarian appeals court has rejected Lebanon's request to extradite Russian businessman Igor Grashushkin, whose ship carried the ammonium nitrate that later exploded in Beirut in 2020, killing hundreds and devastating entire neighborhoods. Judges ruled that Lebanon's extradition request did not meet legal standards, effectively keeping Grashushkin in Bulgaria for now.
The Trump administration's handling of a deadly boat strike is under rising pressure as lawmakers move toward a key defense vote.
Congress is preparing to vote on this year's sweeping defense policy bill, while senators from both parties demand answers about a September strike on a suspected drug boat, which included a second hit on apparent survivors. Lawmakers want Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to release full video of the operation and its aftermath, arguing that selective clips for publicity are not enough. Kyle Norris reporting.
A shooting tied to a professional football player has led to serious charges in New York City.
Police have arrested and charged a suspect with attempted murder in the shooting of New York Jets player Chris Boyd outside a Manhattan restaurant in November. Investigators say Boyd was wounded during an altercation near the venue's entrance, and the suspect allegedly fled before later being identified. Kevin Sanders reporting.
And that's the latest news headlines with Alan Edwards.
Our station is so big that you don't have to do much to make it work for you. Radio Big.
Okay, so there you go. 55 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's talk about some things that happened back on this date. Back in 1961, Elvis Presley's Blue Hawaii album goes numero uno and stays number one for 20 weeks. That happened back on this date, back in 1961. Let's talk about some birthdays that are going on today. Rita Moreno turns 94. Donna Mills turns 83. Linda Day turns 81. Brenda Lee turns 81 as well. Jeremiah Jackson turns 71. Nikki Sixx turns 67. Mos Def turns 52. And Haley Seinfeld turns 29. So there you go. Some birthdays going on right there. Let's talk about some things that you ought to know. Tonight, the NFL will have a game. The Falcons take on the Buccaneers starting at 8:15. Catch the game on Prime Video. The Department of Homeland Security has inked a deal to buy 6 Boeing 737 planes to deport immigrants. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has used the charter planes in the past for deportation flights. But this deal will allow it to operate on its own fleet. Some other news, the Postal Service says that next week is our last realistic chance to mail out holiday gifts and cards if you want them to land in time. Post office traffic has been climbing since early December. This week is expected to be the absolute madhouse peak, and don't bother about showing up on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. USPS offices will be locked up tight for both holidays, so there you go. Also in some other news, Representative Haley Stevens of Michigan filed articles of impeachment against U.S. Health and Human Service Secretaries Robert F. Kennedy Jr. She blasted him for the dangers of public health, accusing him of dismantling longstanding medical researchers in driving up healthcare costs and creating chaos. Stevens said that the families are less safe under his leadership and argued that removing him from office for the country's well-being could be crucial. So there you go. Some stuff going on right there. In some other news, OpenAI ChatGPT, generative artificial intelligence app, topped Apple's 2025 list of most downloaded free apps on the iPhone owners installed this year. ChatGPT is a large language AI program capable of writing, answering questions, explaining topics, creating computer code, and offering insights for users. According to Coursera, it finished fourth among iPhone downloads last year, and that's topped, some of the other stuff that was going on. Anyways, that's going to end our time together. Thanks for hanging out with me on this lovely Thursday. At the top of the hour, I will be going over to radiobig.fm for the next couple hours or so if you want to come and hang out with me over there. If I can leave you with some words of wisdom for today a reader, tomorrow a leader. And if I can leave you with some advice for today, put your phone on Do Not Disturb during your first and last 30 minutes of the day. Mental health hack disguised by a tech hack. So there you go. Anyways, I know who you are. You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Safety FM and or Radio Big. The content discussed, including examples of analysis, is provided for illustrative purposes only. It should not be applied as the sole solution in real-world scenarios, as it is based on limited and dated open source information. Any assumptions made during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are not reflective of Safety FM and or Radio Big. No portion of this broadcast, podcast, or radio show may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of Safety FM and or Radio Big. For permission requests, please contact Safety FM or Radio Big directly.